When you shift your self-concept, the way you relate to yourself, everything in your life can shift. In this video, I'm going to be answering your questions. The theme of today's questions are about self-concept and self-abandonment. I'm going to be using the wall to help you visually understand these principles so you can apply them to your life and start to get the changes and experiences that you not only want, but you deserve. So let's get started. First question comes from Jennifer Davis, and that question is, I'm super nervous about setting boundaries with my person. I've been accepting too little. I've never really set boundaries in a relationship. Any tips on how to handle it? I absolutely have some tips because in my experience being very people-pleasing and self-abandoning, it took a lot for me to start identifying that dynamic and start to move differently. And when I did, it was really, really scary. It's okay if you're nervous and if you have a little bit of fear. And I'm hoping when you understand this dynamic better, it makes those choices and you staying with yourself so much easier. So let's get into it. So here you are, and I put some of my needs because I don't know yours. So I'll be giving some examples from my past. Some of my needs are emotional availability, consistency, and someone who's reliable. I kept finding people who were emotionally unavailable, finding people who would give just a little bit, or I would have to chase them, or I would have to earn it. Constantly concerned, are we okay? Are we okay? If they start to go do their own thing, I would basically get really needy. And that was because I was afraid that I would lose the relationship. So really what happens there, and this is what I really want you to start seeing, is when I started to be consumed or obsessed, in my case, with the other person's, oh no, if I don't do that, if I don't show up that way, they're gonna leave me. So what I would do in that situation, and I want to show you this first so that you can also understand the second dynamic. So when I started to think, oh no, what are they thinking? What are they going to do? Are they okay? Do they like me? You can see in the frame here, there's no me. I am gone in terms of my needs because I was over here energetically with them. This could be called people pleasing, right? I am so consumed with what this person experiences. I'm filtering through myself and my safety through them. But what happened to me? I abandoned me. I was not emotionally available to myself. If I was, I would have stayed over here. So starting to understand the true dynamic of self-abandonment, when you're afraid you're going to get abandoned, you're like, oh no, are they going to leave? Are they going to stay? What do I need to do? Who need to... Uh-oh, I've abandoned myself. So what's important here is you're like, okay, you're going to set a boundary. Wonderful. You're going to advocate for your needs. Awesome. You're starting to be in alignment with that which you want fulfilled, right? If emotional availability is one of your needs, you're starting to be emotionally available to yourself. So if you're going to get a reflection of who you're being, right? You've got to be consistent first. You do. And you've got to be reliable to yourself first. And you've got to be emotionally available to you. Now, the fear is going to be, if you're like me, still recovering from people pleasing, the fear, and this is what's happening. Oh no, if I set a boundary, they're going to leave. If I set a boundary, maybe they're going to be upset. And when that energy starts to go that way, what's happening? It's that same earlier dynamic of self-abandonment or abandoning your own needs. And you come over here. What are their opinions going to be about you? What are they going to think? And ultimately, what are their actions going to be? So when you start to get nervous about that and you become more consumed about the fear, the cost of that, the cost of focusing over here is you not being the person that you need, right? So if you want a reflection of this, you've got to stay in it. It's going to be uncomfortable. And sometimes if you're not conscious and aware of this, it could come across as fear. Oh no, I'm afraid. Oh, I'm uncomfortable here. I don't know what happens. What happens when I put down my boundaries? What happens when I advocate for my needs? I don't know. I'm afraid that they're going to leave me. Okay. Well, I know the cost of me starting to be consumed over there is self-abandonment. And if I'm self-abandoning and I'm not emotionally available, I'm going to keep getting a reflection of that because I'm not setting a boundary. And another way to think about a boundary is just putting down like, this is me and that's you. So kind of being more autonomous so you can really start to understand yourself. And when you understand yourself, you can start to understand what actions, words, expressions, what do you need to do for you to keep yourself safe, to be emotionally available, to be consistent, to be reliable to you. So understanding that there's a cost. So if you're like, oh no, I'm going to set a boundary, I never have. Well, it wasn't a big deal. Well, when you didn't set the boundaries, right? And we were more focused because most likely if you didn't set a boundary, you probably had an upbringing where that wasn't safe and that wasn't okay. Or maybe you were selfish, or, you know, there's a whole magnitude of different things that could have gone on. But most likely it's because it wasn't safe, right? Maybe it was an enmeshed family. So when that fear starts to come up, you got to recognize, okay, well, I'm going to stay with me, even if it's a little scary or a lot of scary, and that's okay. The first time I set a boundary, the first time I asked for my needs, I said, hey, consistency is really important for me to my partner. And I was afraid. I thought, wow, if I asked for this, and that looked specifically. The other thing too is understand how if these are your needs. If they're not, that's okay. Look and ask yourself, what are my needs? Ask, what do they look like in real life, right? I can say, I want consistency, but how would somebody show up in my life? And I would say, oh, that's consistent. For me, it was her and I going on a walk and making dinner once a week when we first started dating, because that felt really good, because I had a lot of anxiety. I was healing from a high, anxiously attached attachment style. So the consistency really helped me in that experience. So when I asked, okay, here it was, I was terrified. She was going to say, this is too much, or I feel, overwhelmed, or I don't want that kind of schedule. I was scared that I could end the relationship simply by asking, because of my past, because of my perception about my own needs. I said it, Eve, despite me being afraid, and it was received. And in that experience of being seen in my needs, them being accepted and honored, I had a disconfirming experience. So I started to heal that old wound. But most importantly, I started to shift the dynamic I had with myself. So I hope that helps. Now, the next question comes from Blessed Life, and that question is, could a blanket belief like I always get what I want, I'm always living the life I want, solve everything? If living in the end, we know we wouldn't be affirming and scripting, should we not be doing that? So we are back to the wall, and I want to break it down visually because I think that this can really help a lot of different people, specifically the part about affirming and what really affirming is doing. So if you right now, and I'm just putting some things out there, I'm not saying that this is your beliefs, but if you right now have a belief that you're not good enough, if you have a belief that you're always going to be abandoned, everyone always leaves, or that you're not worthy, and over here, you've got your wish fulfilled, and you've got you're deserving, you're worthy, you're loved. If you're here and all the beliefs about your past experiences, about maybe the adults who did abandon you emotionally or physically, if you perceive that you weren't worthy because you didn't get your emotional needs met, or that, you were supposed to, get first place or get good grades, and if you didn't work hard enough, well, then you're not good enough, that you don't have an inherent worth. If this is where you are in some way, shape, or form, and you're sitting here in your feelings and your deep unconscious beliefs, you're sitting here feeling these things to be true in your unconscious, and you're scripting and you're saying, I am good enough, I'm worthy, I'm deserving, but your feeling state is here. You will not move to the wish fulfilled. Affirming will not change the old beliefs. Affirming will help to strengthen the new ones. When you start to learn and just start to practice having these feelings of worth, and the biggest thing is going to be realizing that any idea you have that you're not worthy is simply the opinion of somebody else when you were growing up. I ask you to start researching that in your own life and see how much that applies to you. That you're not deserving. Why? Who taught you that? Did you have to earn your deserving? Did you have to work for it? Were you ever good, or you have to prove that you're good and lovable, right? Or loved. This all kind of wraps up in one. If you do not have the space for this because you have beliefs from over here, scripting, visualizing, affirming, you'll be here thinking of that. So emotionally, your electromagnetic signature, as Dr. Joe Dispenza would describe it, is calling out experiences, situations, people to come give you more of this, because your feeling state, your electromagnetic signature, which is your thoughts and your feelings, it is here. So yeah, you'll need to start to learn how to let go of some of those beliefs. And I have videos that I will link. They're here to help you. But when you let go of that and you're scripting in this energy, you're affirming in this energy, That is what changes. First, you have to unhook from the deep beliefs. Then you can use scripting and affirming when you're already here. They can help you to fortify this experience. But if you're trying to use affirming and scripting to get you from here to there, it's a misapplication. And again, if you're working through it and, trying to tap into those energies, okay, but realize that you gotta have some cord cutting emotionally with these anchors that are holding you back. Because until you change your belief that everyone's going to abandon you, or that you're not good enough, or you're not worthy, you will continue to find this. So if you're scripting and you're affirming and you keep finding this, the issue is not that you're not scripting or affirming. The issue is that you're not doing the deepest work necessary. And Neville Goddard would call this changing your level of consciousness, changing the conscious awareness you have about your worth, about how you see yourself, about your value. If you keep filtering it through somebody else's opinion, which most likely happened early on, you'll stay here. So part of it is going to be, what do you think? Anyone or anything that doesn't make you feel more alive is too small for you. That's the words of David White. So yes, you are not affirming or visualizing so that then you are over here. You want to start thinking of who you need to be, how that would feel, and using scripting and affirming to be in that state. But it will not change your beliefs. I cannot say it enough, because so many people use affirming to completely do all the uprooting. Affirming can help you to start understanding what this will feel like, help you get that momentum start to go, but it is not strong enough to uproot your unconscious beliefs. Shifting your perspective that it was ever relevant for you is one of the most powerful things you can do. I'm gonna link a video that I have to help give you more understanding, because this is really just a different vibrational plane. So how can you shift your vibration? Well, you can cut the anchors of all the things people told you, all the situations where you perceive that you weren't worthy. Let them go, and guess what? You naturally evolve to the realm of your wish fulfilled, to the end that you're looking for. So to go to the first part of the question, yeah, one big blanket belief. If you have this idea that you're not worthy, which I absolutely resonate, because so much of my life was here, abandonment, emotionally no one being available, because of my perception of worth and my experiences. And it wasn't the experience, it was me continuing to use my reason as a 6-year-old, 4-year-old self. You don't get reasoning till you're about 8 years old. So what I thought I was worth in that moment. So if I didn't get my need met, it must be me. Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't get that. I didn't get that affection or love or need met. I must not be good enough. Because if I was good enough, my family would have given. And if they can't give it to me, no one can. That's a misunderstanding of myself as a kid. When I looked back, when I was taught this and I looked back and I realized, oh my God, my caretakers, they were going through their own stuff because they're human beings. They're not bad people. However, there was an insufficient emotional environment, and I didn't get my needs met. And I can let go of the idea that it ever had anything to do with me. Those moments that flash and you can realize the truth of yourself by re-reasoning, using logic that you have, all life experience you've had up until now, to look back and realize, yeah, that blanket shift, that's a great way to say it. Yeah, a blanket release that this idea ever had any relevance to you. You cannot lose your worth. Only thing that you were confused on is that you could lose it, or that you as a kid could have done something different in the situation and your environment and you would have got your needs met. The emotional environment was insufficient. You as a child was not the one that was insufficient. You grew up with human beings. We're all doing the best we can. Doesn't mean that we're perfect, but it certainly doesn't mean that you were the one that was at fault. And then again, when you shift that, when you're able to see it different, wow, I've always been worthy. Oh my God, it feels so much more natural because there's nothing holding me back. The whole thing that was holding me back to the old experience of lack and abandonment and all that was a misunderstanding and a distortion. This actually feels more natural now that I let go of that anchor. More and more you start to see that when you shift your self-concept, the way you relate to yourself, everything in your life can shift. And when you let go, you release and you give yourself a chance to step into something new. And releasing is the biggest thing you can do. Things like affirmation and scripting can help. But realize that some of these things will feel uncomfortable. Be aware of that and know that even if you're scared or fearful, and still do it. You have the strength, you have the resilience. You've lived through every single bad day you've ever had, and you're still here. You can do this. Shift your self-concept and move out of the dynamic of abandonment. Understanding how vital your self-concept is when it comes to abandonment is vital. This next video is going to help you to start releasing the anchors that are keeping you and dragging you down in those lower levels of your concept. You deserve it. You're worth it. Thank you so much for your questions and for trusting me with them. I love y'all, and I'll see you on the next one.